Hello and welcome to Candy Bee Knittin'. I'm Candy Bee and I be knitting. I hope you be knitting too. This is my first video on my YouTube channel, but some of you may already know me as Rulude on Instagram. And I just wanted to, just start doing these short little videos where I talk about what's on my mind in regards to my crafting. I'm a knitter, I'm a spinner. I do a little bit of gardening, and I just, my mind just always racing with these kinds of topics. And so I wanted to do a quick little video just to introduce myself, let you know a little bit about me, and hopefully you'll tune in every time I post and like and subscribe and get notifications, and you'll want to see more of me. For this first episode, we're still trying to figure out our equipment and our lighting and our audio visual. And so I thought I would start off with just a little origin story, how I got into knitting. Me, like a lot of people, 2020, I was home a lot. Didn't really have much else to do besides watch the same things on Netflix over and over again. And so I decided, I've always had this weird relationship with, not weird, but knitting has always intrigued me. Yarn has always intrigued me. I was following fiber artists on Instagram just because I like to garden. Then you see people that have sheep and alpacas, and it all kind of flows together. It felt like the next logical step for me. And so I turned on a couple of YouTube videos, and within a weekend I was knitting, and I probably knit every single day since October of 2020. I quickly just got so deep into it. Next thing you know, I'm spinning. Next thing you know, I'm growing cotton in the garden. And probably most of y'all can relate to that feeling. So I thought I'd start off this episode by showing you my first knitting project, because I don't really see that a lot on YouTube. A lot of people, knit very beautiful things, and I love it. I love to see the really complex cables and lace work and things like that. But I've only been knitting a couple of years, so I don't have that breadth of material, but we can just start at the beginning. And this is the stereotypical first knitting project. It is an ugly, itchy scarf, terrible tension. And what happened was I learned to knit on a ball of yarn. I just had it around the house because I'm also one of those people that has craft supplies in my house that I can't let go of because I might need them one day. And then I just ran out to my local craft thrift store and bought whatever caught my eye. And you can probably guess my favorite color is purple. Bought this very itchy, I'm pretty sure that this is Craft Smart yarn, which is a since discontinued yarn that Michaels carries, but Red Heart makes the same color scheme. A lot of other companies use the same purple and pink yarn. I've actually seen it in other thrift stores since I started learning to knit. And I just cast on maybe 25 stitches and just started knitting this scarf. And of course I can't follow any of the rules, so I was just like, oh, I'll seam it myself. And you can see how great my seaming was back then. Gave it to my daughter, and she does not wear it because it is very itchy. And this yarn here is actually the yarn that I learned to knit with because I took a crochet class about 15 years ago at this point. Could not crochet to save my life. And I had this yarn around the house, and I was like, I'm gonna add a tassel because I'm fancy. So that's that. And the thing that no one tells you when you start knitting, well, the thing everyone tells you to do when you start knitting is, oh, just make a scarf. Just get some worsted weight acrylic yarn and make a scarf. And the advice I would give someone looking back is make what you want to make. Make the thing that gets you excited to learn to knit. If you want to knit because you want to make a sweater, then learn to make a sweater. It's really not that hard. The scarf thing can be very demoralizing if you're not super into the process of knitting, because you're knitting this scarf, or I was knitting this scarf, and it just felt so like laborious. And it's like, and I don't really wear scarves, to to be honest with you. And I've learned a lot of things. One, I like working with thinner yarns. I don't really like working with thick yarn. And that's what everyone tells you is, oh, get the thickest yarn you can find and some thick needles and go to town. And that wasn't pleasant for me, and it actually hurt my hands a lot. And making a scarf, don't recommend it unless you really are excited about scarves. I bought this thrift store yarn, which was, I mean, it's a pretty color, and I really didn't know what I was doing when I was shopping for it, but would have been nice to pick out a yarn that was a little bit softer, something a little bit more sustainable as far as my day-to-day fashion. And so that brings me to one of the next things I knit, and probably maybe after a few months of knitting, I was just like, I don't really want to sit and knit garter stitch all day. Like, I like knitting, but not that I can just do the same thing every day. I constantly like to be learning new things and trying new things. And so I went back to the thrift store and I found this yarn, which did not have a tag. And I think it's some sort of superwash fingering weight. Looks hand dyed to me, but still purple because I like purple. But I tried doing little like eyelets in lace because I was like, oh, that sounds interesting to me. That excites me. That's interesting to me to learn this technique. And I just played with doing yarn overs and knit two togethers. And it's not really a straight line because I was reading about like left-leaning decreases versus right-leaning decreases. And every single time I knit, I want to just learn something new and different. So I really wanted to just get a feel for how that looks on fabric. And I just kind of zigzagged my way through this scarf. And then at the end, I'm pretty sure I just picked up stitches and knitted the edges together rather than, I didn't even know what a Kitchener or a grafting was. I was just like, I think I can kind of figure this out. And that's my other thing too. I don't really like to follow patterns. I like to forge my own way and figure out the best way to do things, which doesn't always end well, which, yeah, that's why this seaming job didn't work out really well. But that's me in a nutshell. I like to go to thrift stores, buy crazy yarn, try different things, try new things. I like to challenge myself. I love sitting down watching TV and just knitting stockinette, but at the same time, I always want to be kind of leveling up. And so I'm not going to keep you too long because, like I said, this is the first episode and I really just want to see how the setup is and how everything's going to work out. So I'm just going to leave you with one of my latest projects just to show the progress I've made over the last, it's going to be 3 years this October. And this is the Joie mitten. I said I don't like to follow patterns, but I've gotten better at following patterns, especially if it's something I want. This is the Joie mitten by Brandi, Cheyenne, Harper. And this is some worsted weight yarn held double with Knitting for Olive. And it was actually a gift from someone on Instagram, which that's another recommendation I have if you're a new knitter. Don't go out and buy a whole bunch of yarn because you'll just come into yarn. And so I wanted to use the Knitting for Olive mohair because everyone's holding, that's like, I don't know if that's the trend anymore because now we're into summer, but everyone's doing like, oh, hold worsted weight with mohair. And I was like, I'm gonna try that. And someone was like, well, I got some Knitting for Olive. And so I tried that with this mitten because one thing about me, I run very hot. And so I can't imagine a whole sweater of mohair mixed with wool. But for a mitten, that sounds like it's gonna be perfect. And so this is my first time doing cabling because when like I said, first time you learn to knit, everyone's like, oh, that's too hard. Oh, knitting the round's hard. Lace is hard. Cables are hard. Color work is hard. And really, it's as hard as you make it, you know. I like to just sit down and just be very methodical, pull up a couple of YouTube videos, and cabling is, if you can knit, you can cable, period. If you, lace work, if you can yarn over, you can lace. Most color work is just stockinette stitches in the round. You pick up one yarn, you drop the other yarn. So don't be intimidated or scared. I recently said I wanted to do some color work and someone was just like, oh, I wouldn't even, you know, try making a hat first or try making something small. And it's just like, no, just go for it, you know. And I hope y'all go for it and subscribe and go on this journey with me and tune in every time I post a video, and hopefully I can keep showing you my progress with my creating and things like that. Like I said, like, subscribe. If your first knitting project was a scratchy scarf, please tell me in the comments. If there's other things you'd want to sit down and chat about, let me know that in the comments. Follow me on Instagram at Rulude. I also have a Ko-Fi if you want to buy me a coffee. That is Rulude as well. And until the next time, I'll see you. Thank you.